All right.
All right, we're good. So, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of QuattroQuattroDos. And today, I have a special guest with me. I have Riley James. Probably Riley, not to offend you from the get go, but you're probably the whitest person I've had on the show. Uh, but it's all good. It's all good. We need diversity, you
Hey,
know.
yo estudio español en la escuela.
There you go. There you go. We're good. That's it. You check the box. uh, but Riley is a. Let me give you some adjectives to describe Riley before we get into the conversation
Oh
we're
no.
gonna have with him. I just for everybody listening or watching, I don't know him. Like I've seen him a few times here and there at the Dynamo Stadium, but it was only like hi bye type of deal. But to what I've have gathered by just looking and watching and maybe going through his Instagram for a minute, I've noticed that Riley is a reporter. He's a podcast host. I actually listened to the one with Tarek, sports guy,
Oh, thanks, man.
LA guy, but the good LA, not the bad LA, like Louisiana LA,
Uh,
not LA, California LA. And he's a long commuter. I know you know about commuting a lot. And also, one
yeah.
of the things that I like about you, like from a guy to another guy, is that you dress very well, and I like that.
Well,
I like
a
that.
lot of things to unpack right there, but I thank you so much for the last compliment. They say dress for the job you want, not the job you have,
There
and
you go.
the ultimate goal is to be on television one day. So to present myself in that fashion is definitely a goal of mine. But yes, I commute from Lake Charles, Louisiana to Houston, Texas. It is quite a long trip, and the late nights are not my favorite, but there is like a certain romance into this. I'm gonna look back on when I'm older. It's like, yeah, I really wanted this so bad. I would drive until 2:30 a.m. to get back home, and it's cheaper just to go in and out of the city same day than to have to stay every single game. So it's worth it in the end.
That's commitment, man. And I commend you for that because I mean, I drive 30 minutes, and that's a pain in the ass sometimes for me. So I commend
30
you for that.
minutes, 30
Yeah.
minutes doesn't even get me to Beaumont.
That's crazy. You barely like leave the state, like if you get to leave your state. But talking about your state, let me tell you two things that I've know about Louisiana, like in my whole life. So
Okay.
I worked for a couple that they were from Louisiana. I think they were also from Lake Charles. That's where you're from, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they were from Lake Charles. I'm not sure though. But it was Luke and Carla, and Luke would always call me Bubba. So to this day, I call my son Bubba, and I call everybody Bubba or Bub, and that's like one of the things I got from a Louisiana guy. And then the other thing that I know from Louisiana is the show Swamp People. It's one of my favorite shows. It's a good show, man. It's a good show. But
Oh my goodness.
can you tell us the non-Louisiana people what is it like growing up in Louisiana? Is it like swamp people or not really?
Well, first off, I'd like to address swamp people real quick. I got so many, especially since I cover Major League Soccer and there's not really any Louisiana representation. I get asked all these questions. So you're not the first one to ask.
All right.
Swamp people, not a representation of how I grew up.
So
I've seen
when
alligators. I've been
when
in the
you
water with
when
alligators.
you talk, there's no subtitles under you.
There's no subtitles,
Okay.
as you can see. I
Yeah.
am vocally trained though, which
Okay.
is it's a little bit different from most Louisiana people. But Lake Charles has this like really interesting thing where we really don't have an accent. So you go down farther down I-10, you get to New Orleans. New Orleans is like a super Creole, Southern type of Cajun flavor. Baton Rouge is super Cajun, and then you get to like Lafayette, where it's like this really deep French heritage, and then you get to Lake Charles, where we talk like we're from Texas. And I think that's kind of where I fall. But growing up in Louisiana, man, it's different. It's hot. We get 1 week of cold weather a year. Spring is a day. I mean, you know this living in Houston. Like it's weather's absolutely all over the place. And we had that ice storm earlier this year where it was 16 degrees, 17 degrees. And a couple of days before that, it was 70. And a week after that, it was 65. Like you
Yeah.
never know what to expect. But overall, just in Louisiana, you get questions like this all the time, which is, which is, I'm happy to answer any questions about the
but
state.
but it gets
But
annoying,
you
huh?
really get, yeah, no, hey, it is what it is. It's an opportunity for me to talk about the state that I love. I grew up obviously a huge college football fan with LSU right down the road in Baton Rouge. My family has season tickets, so we get to experience that every single season. The only problem with Louisiana growing up is there's no soccer representation, like I mentioned a little bit ago. I was pretty much the only person in the city to like venture out and like find soccer apparently. And like people come back, or I come back, and people are coming up to me like, "What'd you go do?" I'm like, "Yeah, there's a soccer team about 2 hours down the road, and they're like pretty legitimate. Their stadium's very nice and everything like that." But I mean, it's just being a lone wolf. You get lonely sometimes watching soccer matches, which is understandable because you're the only one. But you know, those early Saturday mornings watching the Premier League, those late Sunday nights watching MLS in Seattle, in Portland. So it's just finding that balance of like having those friends in the community around the country, but also you're going to have to tough it out a few times by yourself.
And that's perfect, because my next question is, how did you get into soccer? You know, because being from Louisiana, you got LSU,
Right.
you got football. You know, that is the thing. If not, it's baseball, because Luke was really big into baseball. But, you know, that makes sense, right?
Yeah. I mean, I segued for you, which you're welcome. Podcasting is really, really hard when you don't have a natural segue. But getting into soccer, I mean, I got into soccer like most people, like a World Cup. You know, most people, it was 2010 with Landon Donovan and scoring that goal against Algeria. For me, it was 2014. And that goal Clint Dempsey scored in the first minute against Ghana. I was hype. And then John Brooks with the goal against Ghana at the end to win the game. Like, it was just these incredible moments where you get sucked into like this really national pride and this nationalism when it comes to American soccer. And then you really see him play against Portugal, and you get that banger from Jermaine Jones, and you go up against a powerhouse like Germany and you don't win the game, but you get through to the round of 16 anyways. It pulled me in so much so that I watched all the way to the World Cup final. Obviously, you know, Messi fell a little bit short. So that's the closest he's ever gotten. But the first game I watched post World Cup was Thierry Henry's Red Bulls in Philadelphia against the Union. I'm like, what is this? This is not international soccer. They have sponsors on their jerseys. And like the Red Bulls, like I knew them, but like Philly, they have Bimbo across the chest, which I didn't understand was a company at the time because I was 13. But like understanding like there's different leagues around the world. We have our own thing in America that's not really that old, but like unique and kind of like became its own thing, and now is globally recognized as like it's a legitimate league, kind of. At least we're not a retirement league anymore. Like we produce really, really good players. Obviously, Bayern Munich thinks so, that they bought, you know, half of the FC Dallas Academy,
basically.
But it's just I found that and I never let it go. And then eventually you grow more and more. You get more knowledge when it comes to you know, European leagues, and you get into the Premier League more. You get La Liga. What is the Champions League? Oh, you find all this information, and then by the time you get to all this, it's the Euros, and you get sucked into the Euros, and then the Copa America Centenario we had in 2016. Like it was all these different things that kind of combined together. But the 2014 World Cup was the start.
And do you have like a favorite team that you follow, or is it just soccer overall in a way? Like you watch the best teams, or?
So when it comes to Major League Soccer, it's not like I don't keep it a secret that I love Orlando City. I kind of fell in love with them in 2015 with Kaká and the color purple. Obviously, the color purple is a huge thing here in Louisiana with LSU. But like they really embraced this grassroots types like situation when they're in such a touristy city with Disney and you know, Universal. Like it's a really touristy town, Orlando is. So like this whole grassroots thing where like this is just for them and don't tell anyone, but also tell everyone. And Kaká comes in and like it brings a lot of excitement. They're playing New York City for this first game. I watched that game. I'm like, I really, really, really love this Orlando team. Let me follow them for the rest of the year. They're new to the league. I'm new to the league. It just makes a lot of sense timing wise. And off camera, when that red light goes off, I'm an Orlando City fan, but I understand that it's my job and it's my duty as a reporter and as someone who gets to talk about soccer on podcasts and radio and television and stuff. When that red light goes on, it's team A, team B. It's no Orlando this, Orlando that. It's no playing favorite. I understand that they weren't very good for a long time, and I'll be the first one to say that, as opposed to this past year, they had a fantastic run in the MLS's back tournament, and then ultimately the playoff game against New York City, which was just insane by itself. but like I understand the separation between the two.
Mhm.
But I follow Orlando City. I mean, obviously the U.S. national team is it's very, very popular in America, but like I think it's my favorite thing to follow in soccer, which I think is probably most people's their national team. I wish it happened more, obviously, but in Europe, I mean, I didn't really get to pick quote unquote a Premier League team, but like I really like Chelsea since Christian Pulisic's been there. It's been really easy to root for him. I like Thomas Tuchel a lot. You know, my first couple years in soccer was Barcelona with Neymar and Suarez and Messi, like that whole thing. So I don't really have like a quote unquote diehard team outside of Orlando City, but it's been like a culmination of a bunch of different things. I have a lot of favorite players, you know, that I really love watching them internationally and with their clubs. So it allows me to be a neutral in a lot of games, which is really, really fun. But like it's always going to be Orlando City for me.
That's tight. And also, you gave me a good segue into how did you get into reporting? Because you went from like kind of like zero soccer in a way, right? And then how old were you when you got into soccer? Like around what age?
Like when I first started watching soccer.
Yeah, when you were like, oh, this is like to 2014 World Cup or whatever.
So 2014 World Cup, that was June of 14, so I was 13 years old.
Yeah, so you were older, because
I understood the significance of what I was watching rather than like watching like the 06 World Cup where I was 5. Yeah. Like I understood that this is a big deal when I was 13.
Yeah, because a lot of people, I mean, a lot of soccer guys usually like they start off from like really, really early. Like, oh, my mom and my dad used to take me to go play when I was 3 or 4, But it's interesting because you don't see a lot of teenagers like switch from like, I don't know, like one sport to another or something like that. But it's cool. And it's cool that, going to a segue, that you kind of like became or wanted to be not a reporter per se, but like follow the sport as a I guess as a reporter. But when did that come into your head and you were like, you know what, I'm gonna take my passion for maybe Orlando or for soccer itself to like the next level?
Okay, so you had this whole thing about like finding soccer when you're a teenager. I'm gonna take you to a completely different sport with football. So Super Bowl 51 was in Houston. Mm-hmm. And it was, obviously New England and Atlanta, that famous Super Bowl. But the media week leading up to it, I had talked to my dad and I'm like, hey, I really want to go to this. I'm 16. We're finally like, it's finally back in Houston or New Orleans. It hadn't been in either one of those cities for a while. Those are the two most successful cities from Lake Charles. So I convinced him to go to Houston, and there are Super Bowl people everywhere, Super Bowl media, Super Bowl, like Fox had like TV Village for all their shows. Obviously Radio Row is such a big deal. And it was this very large production. And I was caught up in the awe of everything. And to make it pretty sweet and simple, I made a declaration to my father, I'm going to do this one day. Like, this is really what I want to do. So fast forward, that was February 2nd of 2017. My first game covering Major League Soccer was downtown Atlanta at the old Bobby Dodd Stadium before they moved in to Mercedes-Benz. July 29th, 2017. I was 16, scared out of my mind, threw up multiple times in the parking lot, walking. So nervous I was, man. It was so crazy.
It's crazy.
Walking into the press box at 16 with a credential around my neck, covering a nationally televised game between Atlanta and Orlando. And I mean, that's when I like first understood the separation between the two. And I walked in, I'm like, just everyone's everywhere. There's John Strong and Stu Holden in the corner. The two guys who really kind of brought American soccer into my home. John Strong was just like getting huge with Fox. He was the number one guy at the time. Him and Stu Holden had just linked up for the first season. It's like all this is happening. And I was absolutely terrified. So somewhere between February and July, I had like finagled my way into being a reporter per se. But like my first run in with like being a personality was in December of 16. I got brought onto the MLS Aces podcast and I did 74 shows with Tom Sweezy. It was a wonderful experience. Really got my feet wet in this industry. But like the day I became quote unquote a reporter and the day I felt legitimate was when I covered Atlanta and Orlando. It was a 1-1 draw, spicy 1-1 draw in their second ever matchup. Kaká had a worldie from like 30 yards. It was wonderful, but like that's the day I really kind of considered that I was legitimate.
That's tight. And how did you get into podcasting? Because that's also part of maybe like part of the media, world,
Right.
but it's like a different side of you, because I've heard, like I said, so he has a podcast, If Anyone Cares. That's actually the name, If Anyone Cares.
Right. Yeah, no, that's the thing.
Right. And me myself, I tried to, before I started, this, I wanted to do something similar to yours, because I'm interested in like talking to people and, listening to their stories, because I find that fascinating. Like, because you get to know people and you're like, whoa, like, you see them, but you don't really know them, and like, there's so much backstory, in their past. And you're like, whoa, you can see how their past kind of influenced to, the person they are at that moment. So did you branch out from like being like a soccer reporter and like covering soccer and going out to stadiums and doing all that to like having your podcast where you do kind of something different? Is that part of like the same thing? Is that two different things for you? How do you see it?
So like I said, the MLS Aces podcast came first.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was like the first thing I did in media. And it was such an interesting moment in time because like I didn't really know what I was doing, and it was very confusing and scary. And like you're 16 years old, expected to be smart when you're on the air, people expect you to be smart because you're on the air and people made the choice to listen to you.
Yeah.
And especially in that format, a podcast format, they can't see how old you are. They can't look at you and guess your age. It's literally just your voice. And I really struggled for the first couple of months doing it, just trying to get my feet wet, trying to get in the flow and trying to understand what's going on. And then right when I get to that February, so 3 months in, I hit that Super Bowl media week, and I really made a push that like, yes, I love soccer and I love talking about soccer, and that's going to be what starts me off in this industry. But I started If Anyone Cares about 6 weeks later after I went to Houston. So like I went through the 6 weeks, what it takes to get a podcast up, essentially, the show art, the music, all the things you have to go through as far as the RSS feeds and everything, not to get too technical. And then 2 weeks later, we finally got a show plan and got it up 8 weeks from the date I went to Houston. So If Anyone Cares kind of became my own little passion project, became like my child in a way where like it's completely me. MLS Aces is Tom. He started it. There's a blog that was like in existence since 2015. I joined on as a podcaster and like was his co-host, quote unquote. This was my show. If Anyone Cares was mine. And it started off in April of 2017 and had a great run with that first show. And there's some issues that happened, some things that were, some things got confused. So that version of the show ended up dying as far as what the show was, what I wanted it to be, the show art, even like all the way down from like the show art, and the music changed. Mm-hmm. And then a year later, we had a quote unquote rebirth, If Anyone Cares 2.0, which is the current iteration of the show now, which is about to hit its 4th birthday in a couple of weeks. The 2.0 is about to hit its 3rd birthday, but the show overall is about to hit its 4th. And I just wanted to take what I was doing, like a segmented show to talk about stories and kind of share stories. And I wanted to talk to people. And you mentioned you listened to Zarek Valentine's episode 51. Mm-hmm. I had him on because I was super intrigued by his whole story and being kind of traded around, having to move all over the country and even out of the country to play soccer and play the sport that he loved and chose to do. And I would have never known Zarek was super into basketball if he wouldn't have told me right off the jump. Like that was like a super interesting thing. But it allows me a place to interview comedians and musicians and teachers and athletes and like orthodontists, like all these different people that you interact with every day, but you don't really know what goes into their job, what goes into the person. Like you mentioned, you see them, but you don't really know them. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to focus on like specific kind of field, but like everyday people doing their job. And you may not know like the person when you click on the episode, and I know that's like a deterrent for a lot of people. I don't know this person, so I'm not going to click on it. My whole thing is take a chance on the show, and you're going to find out something incredible every single show about a person. Every show may not be as great as like the next, because you can't have a perfect show every time. By the end of the day, it's going to be this, it's going to be something great from each episode that you can take away, because these are everyday people. I interviewed a Yugoslavian refugee who came to America, like, during his 20s and 30s. Like, he was displaced. He went to he went to Germany. He went to Switzerland. Like, he was kind of bouncing around, and ultimately decided to come to America. Like, that's such a wild story that, like, this dude was in Yugoslavia. They had a war. He had to leave, and then he had to figure out what he was going to do. His visa was up. Okay, let's go to America. Like, that's not an everyday person story. So you got a couple of those mixed in there. But, like, if anyone cares, it's a place where it's me, but it's also, let's find out about other people. And I think that's probably the best way to describe it. It's whatever it needs to be that week is the joke of the show, because it's so different week to week.
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome. I love it. I've only heard one episode, to be honest, but shows like that are like the shows that I listen to the most, other than crime shows, right?
Right.
Everybody loves crimes. And
that is a sweeping genre that is putting me on my toes to make me work harder. The crime genre, because I mean, I'm not gonna go find murderers and try to interview them.
It's crazy. It's crazy. I'm currently listening to it's called Chicano Squad, and it's about a police squad that is made of Chicanos, of, like, sons of Mexican parents, but it's from, like, Houston, so that's the only reason I'm listening to it now, because it's, like, close to home. But yeah, if everybody's watching or listening, go listen to Riley's podcast. It's really good. If anyone cares, that's the name of it. And kind of going into that same transition wheel that we're on. So you talked about, so I guess this is like a two-part question in a way. So you talked about, this is going to be more of your attire, because first of all, let's go straight to the point. Where do you get your little flowers things that you put on your jackets? I love those, man. I see every time they're like a different one. It's so cool.
They were a gift from someone very, very special. I won't give away the person, because it's very, very personal to me. But I got them as a gift, and to honor that person, I wear them every single with every single suit, everything, every single time. The only time I don't wear them is funerals, because I feel like that's a tad inappropriate. Or, like, if I do, I'll wear like a black one on a black suit where it blends in really nice. But no, that's became my thing. Like, I talked to this boxer. His name's Cam Awesome. He's been on the show several times. He'll be on the next episode of IAC. But, like, he's like, hey, you got to differentiate yourself and, like, make a thing. And you have to, like, be you, but, like, have a thing where people can recognize. And, you're going to have kids one day, if you ever get that far, that, like, see that and, like, emulate that and, like, be you for Halloween. Like, that's a huge, huge goal at the end of the day. But, like, I have a thing that you pointed out, and I'm thankful you brought it up. Those flowers on the lapel, that's what I've chosen to do. And it's a way to show my style. It's a way to show my personality. It's a way for me to honor my past. And also, I mean, it's just a nice little pop of color. And I wore one today. I wore a white one today with a little white pocket square. It looked good. It looked good.
No, I mean, it looks good. And I mean, now that you mention it, you do stand out. So, I mean, it works. Because that's the first thing I saw when I saw you. I was like, hey, I like that. That's kind of cool. Like, but, you were like, I wonder how I would look with one of us. But then probably can't pull that off. Just leave it to him,
I was gonna wear one tonight, but I'm like, that's a little bit too dressy.
I was actually expecting you to wear it, and I was gonna be so excited because I was gonna hit it straight from, like, the get-go. But it's all good. It's all good. But you were talking about also transition. You were talking about how you dress for what you want to be or where you want to be, right? So where do you want to be? Why are you dressing up so much? What's your future looking like? Where are we gonna see you on TV? What channels?
What's the best way to answer this without taking all my options off the table?
Right.
Because I mean, at the end of the day, the end goal is television, but where do you want to start? Like I look at it like I graduate college from Full Sail University. Shout out Jets, go Jets. I finished there on June 4th. Today I graduate. And after that, it's like a big question mark. I don't really have a solid plan going forward. I don't know where I'm going to be. I'd like to still stay like around Houston, but that's not really my choice to make at the end of the day when it's the best opportunity for me. I'd like to still stay around Houston, be around the Dynamo, maybe some other Houston sports with the Texans and the Rockets and the Cougars. But, you know, that's not for me to decide right now. But where do I want to be? The end goal, I'll always tell people this. The end goal is either Bristol, Connecticut or Los Angeles, California, to be on ESPN or to be at Fox. Fox is really, really great. Their innovations over the years with like the score bug you see on the television, Fox was the first one to do that. People were so afraid for a long time. If you put the score on television, people weren't going to stay. And then Fox did it, and now it's a staple of television. When you look at every game, there's a score bug. And then ESPN also is the worldwide leader in sports. Like they're such a huge industry and they provide so many different things, but Fox has the edge a little bit because of their soccer content. We talked about John Strong and Stu Holden a while ago, Alexi Lalas, Rob Stone, like all of those guys, which all, by the way, Rob, Alexi, and John Strong have all been, if anyone cares. So if that interests you at all, go listen to, you know, John Strong's podcast or Alexi Lalas' podcast or Rob Stone's podcast. You can find them all if anyone cares, wherever you get podcasts. That's a shameless plug, ladies and gentlemen. But moving back to the question, I would love to be at Fox because a lot of the people I look up to have been there. But ESPN's just as enticing because you do have John Champion and Ian Dark and Taylor Twellman, like the soccer guys. You look at Alejandro Moreno,
that guy,
like those guys, or Hercules Gomez, like all these dudes that are into soccer and talk about soccer on such a large sports programming like channel. Like it's incredible. So ESPN, Fox, CBS has got the Champions League. I think that'd be really awesome. CBS, not bad. You get to wear the little eye right here on the jacket. That's awesome, man. And then of course NBC has the Premier League. So like any one of those, man, I want to work for one of the big four. Obviously ABC, Fox, ESPN, and NBC. That's the end goal. But wherever I go immediately out of college is going to be an absolute blessing, and I'll be happy to take almost any job that's offered. I really, really kind of want to get my feet wet on like the super professional level with I have a bachelor's degree. I'll have 4 years of experience kind of doing this kind of stuff. So I really, really want to push forward to be on one of the main 4 networks. But to start off, it's kind of, a big question mark right now. I think that's really exciting.
Yeah.
I don't know what my next 6 months are going to be like.
And I mean, it's all up from here, bro. Like, I mean, obviously I'm very amateur, of course, but I see you and I see the way that, you handle yourself and that you put yourself out there, and I see the potential. So if I was NBC or ABC or whoever, ESPN, I would put you on TV, bro, with a little flower. Just make sure you have a flower always.
Thank you. Even though I tripped over a couple of names and words in the answer.
Hey, it's all good.
I'm sorry, Alan Moreno. I'm sorry.
They forgive you. You're nervous. It's okay.
It's a big show. I'm on QuattroQuattroDos.
Yeah. So, dang, I was going to tell you something. Before we get into the Dynamo, there is a video, I think one of the first videos or first things that I've saw of you when, I saw you at the stadium, and then I think somewhere, I found you on Instagram or something, and I saw a video of you that you were outside, if I'm not mistaken, Reliance Stadium, I think it is called now.
Old Reliant NRG, whatever it is now. You talking about the Mexico?
Yes. Oh. So if you haven't seen the video, I don't know if you have it somewhere posted up.
It's at Riley James IAC on Instagram. It's pretty easy to find. It's just me outside of NRG Stadium, and I think it's on Twitter somewhere. It used to be my pin tweet.
It is the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. Because so just for context, if you haven't seen it yet, but urge you, if you're listening or watching, to go stop right now, go watch that video. You will laugh. But Riley's basically covering, I think, Mexico and who else is playing?
It was the CONCACAF Gold Cup quarterfinal between like the first game was Canada and Haiti, and the last game was Mexico and Costa Rica.
Mexico,
And
Costa Rica.
yeah, and Mexico had won on like these insane 6-round penalty shootout, and Ochoa saved the last penalty. Like it was this wild game, and these people were excited. These people were intoxicated. These people, it was late. People were having a good time.
So Riley over here is trying to talk. You know, he has a little mic and you know he has a little camera in front of him, and he's trying to like be all professional as a professional would. And then you just see like 100 dudes come up to him and just kind of like touch his hair and like kind of hug him.
I was so mad about the hair, dude. The hair looked excellent that night. They came and messed it up immediately.
But you handled it like very well because you stick to your whatever you were saying. You finished it and like a true professional, man.
I lost it there for a second, dude. I had no idea what I was supposed to say.
It was so funny. It was the funniest thing ever. But yeah, if you haven't seen it, go watch it. Go check it out. But let's go ahead.
I will say, hold on, before we move on from that, those two ladies at the end were my favorite. I ended up talking to them. They barely spoke English, which was fantastic at the time because I didn't speak very much Spanish like I do now. I don't even speak that much Spanish, but I speak more Spanish now than I did back then. The two ladies at the end were just so in awe of the setup we had, and they loved my camera guy. They absolutely loved him. And they were just trying to ask me a bunch of questions, and the language barrier was there. I had been in NRG Stadium for about 7 hours at that point, so I was exhausted. It was just a wild time, dude. But thank you for bringing that memory up. I bring up that video all the time because it's my favorite portion of my job.
It's just dealing with that kind of stuff. I've seen. It's one of the funniest things I've seen for sure. Not
any of them spoke English.
That's why, like, the funniest videos on the internet is when like reporters are trying to do something and like something happens and you're like, this is like compilations of those are like my top favorite like recommendations on YouTube. Like just reporters, something happening to reporters. So I'm glad you're part of that compilation of videos. But let's talk a little bit about the Dynamo since we talked about soccer so much, but let's kind of keep it short because there's not much to talk about. They had a pretty bad season last year, and this year they kind of look promising, I guess that could be the word. How do you see them? What are your expectations of the Dynamo as a Louisiana guy, as an Orlando guy?
So I've been covering the Dynamo. This will be my fourth full year covering the Dynamo. So first full season was in 2018. I covered a couple playoff games in 2017 when they were playing against Seattle and Portland. But like this is my fourth year. So I've had 3 full years or 2 in a pandemic year, full seasons with Dynamo. I know what to expect. I've been, I've been here with Tab almost the whole time. Like I kind of know what is going on. And, they made some moves. I know they re-signed Adam Lindquist today, which is huge. He's one of the most underrated fullbacks in MLS. They brought in some players, man. I am just so incredible to see Darwin Quintero in season 2 and what he can do under a full off season with Tab Ramos. Obviously, we have the missing, we have a really big missing hole without Marlon Notas. He's 20 goal a year kind of guy, 15 goal a year kind of guy. So it's going to be interesting to see how they replace him. There's so many question marks when it comes to the team about what they're going to do to replace Marlon Notas' goal count, what they're going to do in the midfield to provide balls up to the attacking 3, if it's going to be an attacking 3, if it's going to go down to 2 or 1, like what is Tab going to do? The back line, you don't really know what this team is. And it's going to be fun the first couple weeks to like build this identity and kind of understand what this is. You got Marco in goal, and that's a start. He's had a fantastic first season last year. I know you said they were one of the worst teams in Major League Soccer, which they were. I mean, statistically, they were bad. But you showed a lot of promise last year, and it comes down to the goalkeeping position. I think he was phenomenal in the in the games where he dictated the game, because a lot of those times the goalkeepers can't really. If there's a breakdown of defense, there's not a lot we can expect from the goalkeeper.
Mm-hmm.
So like the moments where he was put in a position where it was on him, he came up big 85% of the time, which is pretty much as good as you can ask from an MLS goalkeeper. But just overall, it's a question mark, because I mean, a lot of these guys have either played together for a year, 2 years, or haven't really met before camp. So I don't honestly know what to expect, but it's going to be really fun to watch the first couple of weeks. I know that the opening game, MLS opens up with Houston and San Jose on national television. I think it's on Unimas or Univision. I believe so. It's going to be exciting. So I wish I had a better answer to your question, but no one's really seen them. I know they're really good in preseason, but that's, they're beating up in Tulsa, so it doesn't really matter. The best team in Tulsa is Oral Roberts right now, so let's take it easy.
All right. Is there any players that you're looking forward to watch? Like, for example, me, myself, I am looking forward to Tyler Passer out of everybody. I don't know why, but I think if they give him a chance, I think he'll, I don't know. I don't even know the guy, but I don't know.
Right.
Maybe because his name sounds funny. Tyler Passer. Who knows?
I am looking forward to, like I said, Dalvin Quintero in year 2 with the Dynamo. Zarek Valentin in year 2 with the Dynamo. Obviously, he was a big addition last year. But I want to see minutes for Ariel Lassiter. His Dynamo debut was a brace. He had 2 goals. Mm-hmm. He came on, he changed the game. He didn't really get an opportunity after that. I know he started a game and didn't play particularly well, but you need to give a guy more than he got 80-something minutes overall in those first couple games. He got subbed out in his first start. You need to give a guy more time to be able to develop in your system. I think he's had, a pretty good offseason from what I hear. I'm looking forward to seeing Ariel Lassiter in a more expanded role, whether that's a starting role, maybe a super sub off the bench every game. Who's to say? That's obviously up to Tab, but I would love to see Ariel more.
Cool. All right, man. I mean, we got Dynamo is just a big question mark for now. So I think we're just going to have to find out when we watch them live.
I mean, when you have 6 weeks of training camp, you don't really know. The preseason scrimmages really don't mean anything. It's basically a brand new squad. You just don't know. You got consistency at the fullback position, which you haven't had. Look, I love DeMarcus Beasley as much as the next guy, and I promise you this is not a thing to slander him. DeMarcus Beasley is your number 1 left back for a lot of those years. Isn't really a good representation of how good your team is, because he's played in MLS and the Premier League and all these other leagues for such a long time. He's been a great player. He wasn't really a quote unquote top left back in the league. You may know who he is. I have his jersey right here in the closet, but I think now that we're getting past the DeMarcus Beasley era, you're going to see a lot of guys who are really, really good in their positions and allowed to play a lot more free game. And whatever that means, it's going to be really exciting to watch. To be honest with you, the big question mark is really hanging on the team. I know the team's a question mark, but the overall question, is this team good to make a playoffs? Is it good enough to make a 14-team playoff, 7 in each conference? I know it's really going to be interesting on decision day when the Dynamo don't actually play a game. That's going to be really wild to watch. And I know for me, I'll get to sit at home and watch all the games at once, which is going to be exciting because I haven't done that in years. But the biggest overall question, is the team going to make the playoffs? That's all anyone ever cares about. No one expects to win the Dynamo to win MLS Cup this year. No one expects them to win. So maybe it's the perfect opportunity to make some noise, or are we going to be watching the MLS Cup playoffs from home again? So hopefully overall glaring question for Tab Ramos and the boys.
Yeah. Man, it's going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be scary. I also hate the fact that, I'm sure you know the schedule, but the fact that they don't have us a rivalry week against Dallas.
Yeah. That Austin game's going to be lit, though.
But yes,
kids still say lit. I'm 20 now, so I don't really know what kids are saying. Well, it's gonna be dope.
You're a kid yourself. You're making me feel bad. I'm 20. I just turned 29. I hurt my soul.
Oh man.
Okay, man.
Hey, 3 words for the Dynamo this year. I know we had talked about it in 2018. Queremos las copa.
Yeah.
Queremos? Yeah, you get it.
There you go. Queremos.
Yeah, I see it behind you. Hey man,
I want the other one.
Been taking Spanish for 334 days. I'm doing my best.
Hey, you're almost there. Almost to a year. You're almost there.
Almost to a year. It takes you quite a long time to master a language, but I think I got a pretty good foundation.
Hey, you'll get there, bro. We can practice. We can practice. But so Riley, I don't take any more of your time, but you want to let people know where they can find you, they can hear you, where they can watch you, and all this good stuff?
So many things to promote. At Riley James IAC on Twitter and Instagram. There's a link in that each bio where it has like a Linktree thing, because Linktree is one of the best things. This is not an ad read, but Linktree allows you to put all the links to everything you do. So I put at the top is my documentary that I made of my trip in last August. We went to Montana, Colorado, South Dakota, like all these different states. Went 12 different states in 9 days with 13 guys. It was one of the best things I've ever done in my life. We made a documentary, a 5-part mini-series chronicling that trip. It's called A 9-Day Story. It's available with the link in the bio. It's literally the top tab. I'm now a staff writer for MLS Aces. I write every other week articles about the weirdness and intricacies of Major League Soccer. Not so much technicality of what a soccer ball is and how to play, but talk about some of the weird things going on in the league and what makes the league so different from every other league around the world. Obviously, we had talked about If Anyone Cares. It's available with that link. You have Apple, Spotify, Google Play, like all the major ones. Wherever you listen to this podcast, you can find my podcast, If Anyone Cares. And then last but not least, R&R. It's a show I do for Dynamite Media Work. It's every other week, every other Friday. We just kind of shoot the breeze and have a good time, man. But at the end of the day, it's all about understanding balance. Because I just listed off a lot of things I did. It's all about finding the balance and understanding to take some time for yourself. But yeah, those are all the things that I do. And I would just want to keep a reminder that, no matter what's going on in your life, what's going on, how busy you get, just make some time for yourself. Because I work a lot, and that's been something important for me, especially over the pandemic and being in quarantine for the other part of the last year, understanding that I have to make time for me. And really kind of take those moments and really understand that it's not all about work, not all about reporting, not all about soccer, about podcasting, everything, but really taking time for you. But I say all that after I say go listen to all the stuff I do for money.
Right. Hey, and after you go listen and watch everything, take a break and enjoy yourself, guys.
Or maybe take a break with me. Who's to say? Who's to say?
Maybe you can listen while you take a break.
Yeah, a little mental vacation for you. We'll take you on a journey and tell you about a Yugoslavian refugee.
Yeah,
who's to say?
That sounds relaxing.
Or Zarek Valentin and his time at Akron.
Hey, why not? You got so many personalities on that show. It's crazy.
We'll have to get you on, man. This is good stuff.
But yeah, man, Riley, thank you so much for coming on, man. And obviously you're a busy man, and thank you for joining us from the other side of the state line, from the other side of Beaumont. I really appreciate
the other side of Beaumont.
Dude, I went to Beaumont.
I'm gonna put that in my Twitter bio. The kid from the other side of Beaumont.
Beaumont is far, bro. I went to Beaumont.
I know.
It's far.
I know Beaumont's pretty far.
But yeah, man. But yeah, everybody, if you're listening, if you're watching, go check out Riley's stuff. Also, go check out QuattroQuattroDos on Twitter and Instagram or whatever. The YouTube channel. Also, if you want to help a brother out, patreon.com/QuattroQuattroDos. You can help a brother out there. And other than that, man, thank you so much. Thank you for taking your time, and hopefully we'll watch you on TV one of these days, man. And we'll see you reporting on sideline or something.
Well, hopefully that's the case. But I'm excited for the upcoming season. I'm excited to see you. Hopefully we can develop more of a friendship in the press box.
That's what's up, man. We'll shoot the shit, as they say. All right, everybody. QuattroQuattroDos, we are out. Thank you. Goodbye.